Registration for the COVID-19 vaccine has officially begun. Government prioritizing the elderly. Those who are over 60 can register online on the Electronic Vaccination Data System. But where does this leave those who are not technologically savvy or even staying in old age homes and perhaps are not connected to the internet? For more now, we're joined by Barry Kaganson. He's the CEO of Auria Senior Living, and he is in Johannesburg. Barry, thank you so much for joining us. I imagine going by our WhatsApp groups, our family WhatsApp groups, the elderly or those over 60, I know many of them don't like to be called the elderly if they're just over 60, are front and center with that digital portal opening on Friday afternoon. How have you and your team handled this process so far?
Yes, thanks for having me on the show. Good morning. So we took the decision to assist our residents within our communities as much as we possibly can. And to the extent that we're able to, and to the extent that that these people wish for us to assist them, we've centralized that registration within our team. So we'll be registering on behalf of our residents. We'll be registering them ourselves, should I say, and assisting with the process, and also then tracking the various communications that come in from the Department of Health with regards to those future vaccine times and any other communication that comes in for those people.
It must be very difficult because, like I just said, you know, there are those who are over 60 or very much up to speed with the technological world. They've got their gadgets, they've got their phones, they're on WhatsApp with family and that kind of thing. Are there many, however, who perhaps find all of this a little bit daunting right now?
Yeah, you're quite right. I mean, there is quite a mix. I will say that the majority of people within our communities are very technologically savvy. One example is this pandemic's created quite an interesting scenario with regard to bridge playing, where we used to have a lot of people playing bridge in our various bridge clubs within our communities. And now they've all migrated to online bridge, and a lot of them say this, you know, once the pandemic subsides, they'll carry on playing online bridge. So it's quite interesting. But of course, there are people who don't use WhatsApp and who aren't all that comfortable with sort of with an online registration process, and those are the people who will be assisting. And one must remember that this generation of people, it wasn't that long ago when they were communicating via like the old telegrams. I don't know if you even remember those. You know, this is the same generation of people, and it's quite interesting the way they've actually adopted all this new technology and quite quickly and quite proficiently as well. And so we shouldn't underestimate, you know, the penetration of technology like this within older adults.
And indeed,
but of course, there are those who aren't comfortable with it, and we're assisting our residents across the board with this registration process.
And indeed, in terms of technology, many of them would have wanted to adopt as much as they can, because video calls became the connection to the outside world during our very hard lockdown last year as well. It has been a very anxious time since the lockdown started in March of last year. What is the sense that you're getting from those in your care? How do they feel about this vaccine process that's starting and the potential for a little bit more health and safety going forward if this rollout goes according to plan?
I think they're obviously very relieved that does seem to be light at the end of the tunnel. Of course, one doesn't know how quickly this vaccine rollout, or how efficiently this vaccine rollout will happen. But of course, we must hope for the best. I think that the pandemic's been particularly damaging on the elderly in a number of respects. Of course, the people in our communities are somewhat protected, both from a virus perspective, but as well as socially, because the isolation that a lot of older people have been experiencing in the past year or so has been less for those in well-run senior living communities. But nonetheless, there's still a degree of isolation, and that's quite damaging on people. And we've seen it, and it's been a trend that's played out in senior living communities and with older people across the world, that often there's that saying that the cure is worse than the illness. And I'm not saying that in this instance, but it's just a point that I'm making, that sometimes the measures that are taken to avoid something, to cure something, or whatever the case might be, often are quite damaging themselves. And I think isolation for older people has an extremely negative effect. I think it's been proven in the past. Pre-pandemic, isolation has an impact on onset of dementia and that kind of thing due to lack of social interaction, etc. But particularly at this time, it's been quite damaging. So I think the general attitude is that the vaccines obviously can't come soon enough. But one must just hope that the rollout is not a lackluster event. In other words, that it does proceed with some impetus and it does proceed quite quickly and efficiently. And hopefully, from an older person's perspective, they can put this behind them in a way.
Indeed, we all do hope so. Just very quickly, before I let you go, Barry, what kind of communication have you received about how this rollout might play out and about vaccine sites that your organisation might have access to for those in your care?
That's a good question. So aged care facilities actually fall under the Department of Social Development, and the vaccine rollout, as I understand, falls under the Department of Health. So we've been communicating with both. I must say the communication of late from these government departments has been very promising. Some weeks ago already, they contacted our various communities and requested that we send some of our nursing staff on Department of Health vaccine administration and training, which we've done. So I think that was a very positive step. That was a few weeks back. So we are in ongoing communication with these various government departments on a personal level. And our staff have actually got to know the staff in these departments, which I think is actually very promising and a very good sign. So they are certainly taking it very seriously. With regard to your question about vaccination sites, my understanding is that registered aged care facilities will actually be vaccination sites themselves. In other words, the thinking is that our residents would be vaccinated on site. Whether we would be requested to vaccinate other people in the surrounding communities, I'm not 100% sure if that's the intention or not. But if it is, of course, we'd gladly make ourselves available to do that. I think it's very important to get this vaccine rollout done as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Barry, thank you so much. Very informative there, and very good that you've had a positive experience with regards to information rollout from government. Thank you for your time. That's Barry Kaganson. He is the CEO of Auria Senior Living, speaking to us from here in Johannesburg.